If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law.
Before Epstein was the Franklin cover-up. Before that, the Finders. And long before that, the Cleveland Street Scandal. Pedogate Primer is a concise intro and overview of a growing child abuse epidemic worldwide. It features shocking instances of institutionalized and organizational pedophilia throughout history. Churches, cults, the world of arts and entertainment, the government, NGOs, charities, and major corporations are all complicit or culprits in many instances. Pedogate Primer delves into material that for many may seem like the stuff of conspiracy theories. For this reason, the book draws on academic resources, declassified documents, and other reliable sources, and steers clear of conjecture. Such shocking true stories need no embellishment.
Emailrevealer.com. People ask me all the time, hey Ed, are you still a private investigator? I sure am. Go to emailrevealer.com. We handle adoption investigations, infidelity investigations, where you give us your spouse's email address. We trace it back to online dating websites, catch them cheating online. Email tracing, locate or identify somebody from as little as an anonymous email address. Someone owe you money? Back child support? We can find that deadbeat, locate his hidden assets, locate his hidden bank accounts, find his current place of employment, and even assist you in obtaining a judgment and recover that judgment for you. Emailrevealer.com. Digital forensics, computer forensics, cell phone forensics, recover deleted text messages, create a report that you can use in court. Emailrevealer.com, 800-572-9762. The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay. Okay, well, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me on Patreon and Spreaker by looking up Opperman Report. Much exclusive content there on Patreon, and also too all the shows you hear Monday to Friday on AM/FM radio without the ads cut out. The commercials are cut out entirely. And on Spreaker every Friday night, I do a live show exclusive to Spreaker audience. And what do you call it? What's it too? If you sign up at Spreaker for free, get an email notification anytime I put up new content. And there's a chat room, very lively chat room, chatters in there, chatting away. Also, it's a big help to me too if you are a listener on Spreaker. If you could retweet those shows and share them and like them and do my little comment and stuff like that, try and get those numbers up. That's the only way I get paid for doing the podcast portion of the show is from Spreaker ads on Apple Plays and iTunes and iHeart, that kind of stuff. YouTube, we don't get any money at all from YouTube. So if you're listening on YouTube, I would really encourage you to go and subscribe on Spreaker. You get more shows, first of all, because YouTube deletes so much of my content. And it's a much more intelligent crowd, too. And it would help support the show if you retweeted the Spreaker show. Anyway, okay, big week. It's been a big week. I'm getting annoyed the hell out of me. And now we're going to have fireworks in the background during the show. Big week. We had the conviction of Ghislaine Maxwell. 5 out of 6 counts. The biggest charge is going to be 40 years. And since it's a federal trial, it's a point system. And I forgot, I thought it was like 70%, but I was told today by Hoffenberg that it's 85% just to serve 85% of the time. And it's not like people think, oh, you get half off good behavior, blah, blah, blah. This is federal. You don't get any of that. It's the worst situation. Federal court, if you get busted by the Department of Justice, the FBI, DEA, Border Patrol, Customs, any of those federal agencies, it's like a 98% conviction rate. They have unlimited resources to come after you, and they're not afraid to use it. They'll go after your family. They'll threaten to arrest your family members. 98% conviction rate, and you do 85% of the time. It's a point system. So there's no, the judge has very little leeway, so it's very serious business there. And, if you're a smart guy, you could avoid federal charges, just one. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this, but just don't mail anything with U.S. mail, okay? Because then they'll bring in mail charges, and that's how they usually use it to. You'll see a lot of these scams, these financial scams, and they'll say, "Oh, we're going to FedEx you the proposal," and I said, "No, don't FedEx. Let's just send it regular mail." And I said, no, we send everything FedEx, first class all the way, because they want to avoid the federal charges of using the U.S. Postal Service. Anyway, that's a little inside baseball. So tonight, both shows are going to be related to the Maxwell trial and the Jeffrey Epstein case. First, we have Stephen Hoffenberg talking about the verdict, what he thinks is happening next, the Victims' Compensation Fund, the Epstein estate. We get into a bit of the intelligence aspects around Epstein, and also, too, other people procuring children for this group, like Jean-Luc Brunel, Trump modeling agency, different matters there, and some things he doesn't want to talk about is concerned. We talked a bit about Ari Ben-Menashe, who's a former Mossad agent. Some people think he's still a Mossad agent. Kind of interesting. Hopefully I'm going to be able to interview Mr. Menashe in the short future. And then I had on a second show of the night will be Jeff Gilson, who wrote a book called Maggie's Hammer. Now, he wrote this book, and Robert Maxwell is heavily involved in his book, and so is Ari Ben-Menashe again. And he gets into some theories and allegations about Ben-Menashe being involved with the murder of Princess Di, Robert Maxwell, which is kind of funny because Offenberg just kind of brought that up too. He asked me a question if I thought it was, and it wasn't really the question I was asking him. So a lot of stuff going on around here, guys. Okay, a lot of stuff going on around here as usual. Oh boy. You got some other guy has some recordings of a guy admitting to be involved in the JFK assassination, and Robert F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King. Just heard from him tonight. So, there's always something going on around here. Now, I want to talk, the show is titled, for people who can see a title on the show, because not everybody who listens to the show sees a title. If you're driving in your car, you're not going to see a title on the show. It's called My 9 Years Journey with Jeffrey Epstein Case. And so, because when the verdict comes out, I get, on a week like this, I get bombarded, with interview requests and, people just off the wall type people, with their opinions and their stuff, experts on this business here, Like I had to block a couple of people on Facebook because you just have no idea what they're talking about. They're annoying me. So a lot of people don't realize, too, my involvement in all this. Even people who are fans of the show, people listen to the show every week. I recognize their name, and I say, oh, my goodness, I had no idea you were involved in any of this. That's my case. So I'm going to lay all that out for you, my 9 years. And I kind of don't feel like this is a big victory at the end of all this. 9 years. I first heard about this story about 12 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, before I had a radio show. I was sitting in some waiting room somewhere, and I read this story about this billionaire who had this mansion, and I believe it was like a local Palm Beach publication, and he was molesting these 3 little girls every day with this massage, and that he didn't do much time. He pretty much got away with it. That was the gist of the story, okay? So now when I got a radio show, I says, that's one of those stories I want to do on the radio. I want to tell this story. But no one knew the name Jeffrey Epstein. I had no idea what the name Jeffrey Epstein was. So I put in certain keyword search terms, and I was able to find the story, find out his name was Jeffrey Epstein, and found out some more, that Clinton flew on his plane, and I found out more details on this. Went to his Wikipedia page, and I got some details on that. But there was very, very little reporting on this story. Some British tabloids were reporting on it because of his friendship with Prince Andrew. But there was very little in U.S. press. And there was no radio report whatsoever. There was nothing on YouTube. The name Epstein, you could Google it all day or all night. Nothing would come up on YouTube. And I couldn't find a guest to come on the show because no one had heard of this story before. And I got lucky because Robert Morrow, who was a ghostwriter for Roger Stone, and he was a supporter of Mr. Trump, he was familiar with the story. So I says, okay, let's get Robert Morrow on the show. So I brought him on. He's a real character, kind of difficult guest. But that was his most well-behaved appearance on this show ever. Okay, and God, I guess I don't know if you call it downhill or uphill, but he's very boisterous kind of character. So I had him on for an hour, and then I did the second hour myself, and that's the first radio broadcast anywhere on the planet about Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, and it was me, and that was 2013, 9 years ago. Now, I did that first broadcast, and I did a couple more after that, and then I guess I caught the attention of Pierce Redmond, who started inviting me on his show. He had heard the story too, and he invited me on his show to talk about it, and I used to invite him back. And pretty much in the beginning, that was pretty much it. The only people talking about this story. And then some Pizzagate types, got a hold of it on YouTube and started running with it and kind of exaggerating things all over the place. In June of 2015, I heard about a lawsuit about a young woman using the name Jane Doe suing both Trump and Epstein. And just came across my vision, and I heard about this, and I saw the lawsuit, and I saw there was a phone number on there. I tried calling up the number, and it had been shut off already because I wanted to help out if I can get a hold of these people. So that lawsuit was thrown out. It was a do-it-yourself lawsuit, and it was all kind of errors in the way it was filed and stuff, and it was thrown out. And this attorney from New Jersey picked it up and started a lawsuit, and he contacted me right away because when you looked on YouTube, I was considered the expert on the Jeffrey Epstein story. No one else was talking about it. Very little out there, and the other stuff that was out there was all kind of wacky, exaggerated, kind of Pizzagate type stuff. Not that I'm ridiculing Pizzagate, because again, I did the first radio show about Pizzagate too. But I have off the air witnesses and statements that have gone to the police and gone to the FBI, and were threatened by characters in that story. By the way, all that stuff's been deleted from YouTube. So if you want to follow all that, you can't go on YouTube. It's gone. But it's out there still. So I'm very aware of what's going on with those characters known as Pizzagate. But there's just a lot of nonsense and stuff that was added to it. Frazzle, drip, and all kind of foolishness. The hysteria that they add into these stories. I don't want to get too sidetracked, though. So it was June of 2015 that I was actually hired to work for the first time by a plaintiff and an attorney to work on the Epstein case. And I couldn't talk about it at all because I'd signed a very thorough non-disclosure agreement with the attorney, with the client. But if you go back around that period of time, and I really wish someone would do this someday, and go find all the Friday night shows, starting June 2015 until the present, or until I came out. I guess it was like 2018 when I came out and talked about it. I could divulge that I was involved when Epstein got arrested. No, I think after he was dead that I was allowed to talk about it. But the thing is, I would drop many hints and clues and frustration, on those Friday night shows. And if someone could go and find those and put all those together, there's stuff I said in on those nights that I can't repeat now. Okay, people said to me just before, "Hey, Ed, can you talk about more of what you know now that Maxwell's been arrested?" And no, I can't. And the reason for that is see, when you hire a private investigator, the client takes that privacy part very seriously. It's also this confidential stuff. So I walk a tightrope here, being both a private investigator and an investigative reporter, broadcaster on the radio. Okay? So there's things I'd love to tell you. There's things I would love to tell you, man. There's things I would love to get on the air and brag about from night and day. A very big public case where this guy sued my client, and the guy's in prison, man. We took up dirt on this guy, man. And we got to throw him in prison. Because you're messing with the wrong guy. Okay? F around and find out, bro. Okay? I'd love to talk about that. I can't, though. But right around the time of June of 2015, when I was hired on this case, the attorney who hired me this wasn't his specialty. So one of my duties was to try and find co-counsel and help find co-counsel. And what you should know is everyone I presented this case to or pitched this case to, no one turned it down. Okay, and you hear these stories out there. People say, "Oh, that Jane Doe lawsuit, the Katie Johnson lawsuit out there against Trump and Epstein, it was thrown out by the court and it fell apart." Oh, you hear all these wild, crazy stories, and none of that's true. When I first started pitching this around, too, that's when I first got information about a package of photos that was being shopped around to the tabloids and being purchased and then killed, catch and killed, which you can read about in the Ronan Farrow book. Ronan Farrow, by the way, also talks about my lawsuit there, and he talks about how the plaintiff dropped the lawsuit because of fear for her life and threats. We can get into that as we move on. But that's what really happened there. But I heard about this package of photos being shopped around of Trump on Epstein's plane and Epstein on Trump's plane and Epstein on Clinton's plane and Clinton on Epstein's plane. Okay, and there was photos on planes. And there was even some porn stars supposed to be in those photos too as well. Now, I know for a fact these pictures exist. I know they were being shopped around. I didn't see them with my eyes, but I trust the people who told me about them. Because of the reason they were telling me about it, too. It wasn't to brag. It was, the business, not foolishness. So, turns out, though, that those pictures were ditched, you know, they were covered up. And but the ones with later on with Clinton on the plane, some of those were released. So whoever controls those pitches is still wheeling and dealing with them. I'm also aware too that along the way in this story, that Mr. Trump does a lot of puts out fires and stops people from talking either through threats of lawsuits or other possible threats, and also too with the financial compensation. That he does a lot of damage control. And I even talked to one of the PIs who was involved in helping Trump with his damage control, so I'm aware of how this works and what goes on, and I've seen some of it myself. So I kept my mouth shut about my involvement in the case for a long, long time. But I talked about the case, but never my personal involvement in it. And what happened was why the case was dropped. Later on, many other attorneys came on board in this case. Cheney Mason, who was involved in that case down in Florida, down there with the top mom. And later on, there was another attorney, too. I did some work with him later on another kind of sexual harassment type case, but I forget his name. He was from New Jersey, and I believe he was from Jersey, as well. And he was a very prominent attorney. He's a real sharp guy. He knows what they're doing. This wasn't a fly-by-night operation by any means at all. Okay, and it was all need-to-know basis. So I'm sure they had other investigators, too. I'm sure they did. Now, what happened is a week before the election, Lisa Bloom had planned a press conference, and her live stream was hacked, and her business website was hacked and shut down by a dedicated denial of service attack. And this terrified the people involved, and she says, "That's it, I'm out." Okay. Now, a lot of people like to say, too, that, this was an anonymous lawsuit. No one knows who she is, and she gave a fake address and a fake phone number. No, this is all foolishness. Oh, blah, 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 blah. I know everything about her being involved in this case. I have credit reports, full names, addresses. I know everything, work history, and I know every little detail. Okay? Because this is, how you pitch a lawsuit. This is what you do. You vet these people out. Now, by the way, no one has a problem with any of the other victims, who have come forward and filed lawsuits. Just this one here, because Trump is involved, the people get biased and they say, well, this one I don't believe. I don't believe this. And let me tell you why. I took a deep dive in this, and I did a lot of investigation in this, and I Googled this and I Googled that. And these people tell me this. They don't even know it's my case, And they're telling me this, that they did all this work on this. Well, for all the people out there who don't endorse this case, the one against Trump and Epstein, this lawsuit, the one that was shut down out of fear, what other cases have you vetted of these victims that you found not to be credible? Because I've vetted quite a few. Okay, I've had many people come to me and say, "Hey, I was an Epstein victim," and we tried to put together a case, and we could not. There wasn't enough evidence there for a lawyer to take the case. Okay, and it's not. We didn't just shop it around to one or two. We shopped around to many who were taking other cases in these cases here. So that's my personal experience in all that. Along the way, I managed to get my hands on a lot of exclusive material that no one else had. As document dumps were sent to me. Friends of mine were the ones who found the picture of Prince Andrew at Mar-a-Lago with Epstein. We had found the caption of that. We knew the photo existed. People said I made it up. That whole quote from Vicky Ward, where Trump says, booming on the loudspeaker, "Oh, Jeffrey Epstein, we've been friends for 15 years. Wonderful guy. He likes his social life. He likes those girls on the younger side." I made a meme of that 9 years ago. Okay. I made a meme. And it got my YouTube channel shut down. Got my first YouTube channel shut down because I had my YouTube URL there. And that's what got it shut down. And people thought I made that up. Okay, because no one could find that quote. And it was very difficult to Google that quote and find that quote. Okay, and there's a reason for that. Okay, just this week, there was a lot of hubbub if that's even a word, about Mr. Dershowitz, who was one of Epstein's attorneys at one point, and is also accused of being involved in some of this activity with by one of the victims, Virginia Roberts Giuffre. And came out that, well, oh, look at Dershowitz here. He's acting all goofy, going on the BBC, and he doesn't say that he was accused of being involved in this. And I remembered, hey, there's this really funny story about Dershowitz being on this nude beach and bothering all these girls on this nude beach. And they actually went to his wife and complained to his wife, and he went back and he threatened to sue him. And it was an article about this. I read it on the internet. So I mentioned it on Twitter, and I said, let me find that article, because it was, really showed what this guy's like. And not only was the article gone, okay, and I know how this works, okay, when there's a negative article out there, especially if you're an attorney yourself, you start contacting the publication and the writers, and hey, I'm going to sue you. There's intent to sue. There's a lot of damages here. Let me show you what the damages are. But also too, hey, if you cooperate with us, we'll send you a little donation here, send you plane tickets, a little vacation, whatever, So there's a carrot and a stick that goes involved in those, and also too, there's physical threats and intimidation too. I'm not saying Dershowitz did, but I know other cases, especially the stories I've done. And then there was physical threats and intimidation against me. There's only one time I succumbed twice to removing material. One, the woman turned out to be completely crazy, and I didn't want the material up. Another time, I felt sorry for the woman. Her lawyer called me up like 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning, and I just took a liking to the guy. I wasn't intimidated, but I took a liking to the guy, and I said, okay, look, I'll take it down. It's insignificant. And there was a third one where an estate came after me, and we couldn't prove. I wouldn't have been able to prove that the reporting we did was true because the evidence was stolen. It was like a black bag burglary job done where the evidence was stolen. That's a lot of fun in the background going on here, right, guys? I guess a lot of people didn't know about all this, right? So I guess the next thing that happened, the next big event in the whole Epstein saga involving myself was when he got arrested, and everyone was talking, oh, no, Julie K. Brown is somehow in 2018 allowed to break the story. And she comes out with this series of articles in the Miami Herald that had absolutely nothing new from anything I had said up until that day. She provided nothing different or nothing new than I had been reporting for all those years. But she was hailed and awarded a hero, heroine status. And, she's made some comments flattering to myself, and she's acknowledged me in different ways and forwarded things to me. And we've had a little correspondence. I asked her for some material one time over in an email, and she shot it right over to me. Hey, Ed, here you go. How that works, suddenly one day, I'm shouting from the rooftop this story for years and years and years. I talked about it on AM/FM radio. I think I talked about it on Nuri. Talked about it on Richard Hovland. Clyde Lewis. I've talked about the Epstein all over. Jimmy Church. I talked about Epstein. But some people they keep you down. They keep you quiet. They suppress you, shadow ban, I guess they call it, right? So the next thing was the arrest. And then the death, okay? And that's when I was allowed to talk about my involvement. And that's when I got bombarded by media people all over the world, BBC and Business Insider and all these different National AMI, National Enquirer, all these people contacted me about this. They were going to my website and downloading shows from my website, paying for them. And my documents that I had on there, they were all subscribing on there, pulling up my documents. I had exclusively that 24-page letter where Epstein claimed that he was he was part of the inspiration for the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative, which Maxwell, by the way, was part of too with her little submarine thing. I don't know what the hell she's doing. So, okay, And then everybody jumps on the bandwagon at that point. But podcasts out there devoted to this topic, numerous, people that's all. They became 24-hour Epstein experts. And almost every one of these people who does these shows and gets all this money for them will tell you, I first heard about this from Ed Opperman. Or I first heard about this, someone who heard about it from Ed Opperman. And it's so funny. It's only I'll contact some of these people and I'll say, hey, I see you wrote a book about this. Would you like to come on my show? And now a word from our sponsors. The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119. If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law.
Before Epstein was the Franklin cover-up. Before that, the Finders. And long before that, the Cleveland street scandal. Pedogate Primer is a concise intro and overview of a growing child abuse epidemic worldwide. It features shocking instances of institutionalized and organizational pedophilia throughout history. Churches, cults, the world of arts and entertainment, the government, NGOs, charities, and major corporations are all complicit or culprits in many instances. Pedogate Primer delves into material that for many may seem like the stuff of conspiracy theories. For this reason, the book draws on academic resources, declassified documents, and other reliable sources, and steers clear of conjecture. Such shocking true stories need no embellishment.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay. Welcome back. Sorry about that. I have had this cough and a cold. I don't think it's COVID. I had some exposure to mold, and that's what got me sick and got in my chest here. People keep sending me these notes about smoking and being a smoker. I don't smoke at all. I'm not a smoker. This is a sickness. I don't normally have this kind of phlegm in my throat like I have had the past month. But the point I was making, by the way, welcome back to the Opperman Report. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Opperman Report. And that's a big help, too. If you can follow me on Twitter and follow me on Instagram and retweet me, that's a huge help because I got to get these shows out there. We need to double the income of the podcast. Otherwise, I can't continue. and I can't continue. I got a bunch of jobs. This past 2 months, I do these asset search investigations where we locate bank accounts and close the bank accounts, and I can find safe deposit boxes and all this kind of stuff. So I guess someone, there was like a repeat or something of one of my shows or an interview I did or something, because this lawyer heard about me, and he contacted me, and I did a couple asset searches for him, and then he sent all his friends to me. So I've had like 10 asset searches in December and about 8 in November, and they're like $850, $1,000 a piece. This is good work, good money. It's good work. But with the radio show, I can't continue to fund all this and pay for all this. We need support. So we got to go to the Patreon, support the Patreon, or help me repeat those, retweet and plug those Spreaker links that I put out all the time on Facebook and stuff. But anyway, my point was that I would contact someone who had written a book about Epstein or had a podcast about it, and I would say, hey, would you like to come on my show? And they'd say, yeah, as a matter of fact, you're one of the first person I ever heard talk about Epstein. And I would say, oh, I'm one of the first. Well, who was the first? And it would always be someone who I knew heard it from me. Okay? So, anyway. But what are you going to... It's not an ego thing. Trust me. This isn't an ego thing. This is a different kind of thing. Of course, there's some ego involved. It's kind of like if you ever saw the movie There Will Be Blood, and the guy, I think it's Daniel Day-Lewis, right? One of those, who's the guy who's the oil well guy, and they show him in the beginning, he's down there, he's digging his own well with a shovel, and he's pulling that stuff, and the thing collapses, and he falls down the hole. But he was there first. He got there first, to where these oil wells were. And he was doing good. He had a good operation. He was making money. He was building little towns and stuff like that. But what happened is you see the railroads came. And you need the railroads to move the oil. And the rich guys ran the railroads, so then they took over the oil business. And there's that scene where he's in that restaurant with his little boy, and he wants to get him some milk and a steak. The little boy's deaf by that point. And they're sitting at their little table, and the waiter's serving them. But then when the railroad men come in, there's a big bustle, and the waiter's over there. Oh, take your order. And he screams at the waiter, we were here first. Well, that's what I'd like to point that I'd like to make. I was here first. And I also had some personal involvement in all this and personal risk to my own life and liberty and safety. It wasn't an easy decision to take this case. It was an easier decision to take it than it was with the Sarah Palin thing and some other things I've done in the past that I've had more. Now I'm just used to, danger and the consequence of these kind of things. So, and this was important. I knew this was an important story and an important case. And anyway, so I guess the next stage behind the scenes stuff that happened here, just after the arrest and the death, I started getting contacted. Now everybody in the media, every newspaper guy, everybody's working on this. Now, I remember talking to a reporter, and I'm telling him, in 2010, I saw this article in a newspaper, and then I did the first radio show. He goes, well, everybody's doing it now, so ha, ha, ha. And I says, okay. But what I noticed is, first of all, these news reporters out there, because I love it. I love this. That when we're talking about my job here, people want me to send them a link, or they want to know, they want to send me a link to show a reporter what they were saying about my job, what my work, okay, in my life, all right. Or someone was saying to me, well, who were the guests on these shows you had? I talked to the people directly involved. When people ask me about, because Hoffenberg told us about how, Rudy Giuliani was the corporate counsel at Tower Financial and how he sided with Epstein and screwed Hoffenberg. Well, people said to me, well, Ed, I've never been able to verify that. Where do you have a link for that, a news article on that? I said, no, I got it from the guy who paid Giuliani, who signed the check to Rudy Giuliani's law firm. Okay, if that's not good enough for you, then go read magazines and newspapers. Okay, because like I'm trying to point out to you before, see, not only can a guy like Dershowitz, bury an article that's unfavorable to him, But when you go searching now, and I went searching for that article, and I put in the search terms nudist, beach, threats, Dershowitz, and the only thing that would come up was this totally innocuous story about Dershowitz can't go to his favorite news beach anymore because of COVID. And it was originally published by Page Six, but then it was picked up and duplicated 100 times all over the place for search engine purposes. That would capture the first 20 pages, and a guy like me who heard that first story would get tired of looking for it, which I did. Okay, so that's all these characters out there that are reporting on this Epstein thing by Googling information. Okay, and I get sent this stuff all the time, man. It's a bunch of crap. All right. And somehow, these new experts that just showed up have hundreds and thousands of followers. And they're just raising thousands and thousands of dollars at the snap of a finger. Oh, how does that work? How does that work, man? No credentials. Never done anything. I sound like I'm bitching and moaning now. I guess I am. Okay. But it's what's happening. This is what happened, right? Now, when I started getting contacted by all these reporters, I noticed also, too, that first of all, many of them were just naive and didn't understand the facts of the case and the depth of what's going on here. And then there was another batch that I didn't realize till later on were trying to influence me and throw me off certain trails. Okay, like the whole John Tino story, which I've told several times here. I can't tell it all again to me tonight. But I believe the John Tino story, and now you can't find John Tino no matter where you look. I think it's NDA Island. I did a show on a Friday night, and I called it NDA Island. Now, so there's that whole level of things where people in the media will try to manipulate and disinfo people that are actually working on this, And it worked with me for a little while, I didn't catch on to that right away. But here we are now. It's been 9 years with the arrest Epstein, which I was happy when he got arrested. Except for the chaos it caused in my life. Then you have this bizarre prison death. Hey, what happened there? There's this cellmate with the muscles, and has the same lawyer as Maxwell. What happened? First it's an injury, then he changes his will. Now suddenly, he's dead. Well, the cameras failed, his own videotape. The guards were sleeping. Is he dead for sure? Do we really know? We don't. So was there any satisfaction out of that? Did Ed Opperman get any personal satisfaction from that course of events? You're chasing a guy for 9 years, and okay, he's not in jail now. We don't know what happened. Kind of like the whole Ariel Castro story. That guy in Cleveland with Amanda Berry and those kids, those teenage girls he had. Did a lot of reporting on that for you. You're not going to hear anywhere else. And once again, people will tell me, well, Ed, I read all the books, and this isn't in any of those books. Yeah, I know. Sorry, I talked to the people involved. I apologize. I should go read books and watch YouTube. And the same thing happened. He gets convicted, and then suddenly he's dead in jail or in prison, wherever they were holding him. So now what do we have here? We have Ghislaine Maxwell. All these connections, all this money, all this power, has some kind of blackmail dirt someplace digging around. And we got this conviction here, right? So she's facing a lot of time. About 35 years with all this. If they throw the book at her, all those 5-year charges, they can stack all those on top of each other. It'd be 4 of them, which comes out, that would be 60, 40, what's 40 plus 45 to 40 plus 20, 60 years. If they were to throw the book at her, she'd have to do 85% of that. So she's convicted. And now there's kind of this theory out there that, well, she's facing all this time. Now she's going to make a deal. And they're going to go after everybody else. They're going to bring them all in. It's so ludicrous. I don't see any prosecutor out there, making cases against anybody else. I don't see anybody offering her any deal to make any more waves or any more problems in this. I think they've got their nice little neat bow all wrapped up here and just not tied up. And I predict she'll die of COVID within a year. And who knows if she's really in prison or they let her out or what. But something will happen where she'll disappear off the face of the earth in one way or another. Or in a couple of years, they'll overturn the conviction based on some nonsense. We see that happen often too, that after a few years, when the people aren't watching, that they all get out. Like remember that the Howard Beach case where they chased the kids, they chased the black guys into the highway and they got run over? All those kids wound up doing no time. They were convicted, and years later it was all overturned. They all got away with it. I think like one guy did some time, like 5 years or something. So that's kind of what we can expect here too. So after 9 years, am I rejoicing? Am I, do I feel any satisfaction? The answer is no. Do I feel any appreciation? Really, no either. I'll tell you that too. And I got to tell you, sitting here, in all honesty, perhaps if I had not done that first show and had not spent those first few years talking about something that nobody heard of, perhaps we wouldn't be here today at all with a dead Epstein or, a hidden Epstein and a convicted Maxwell and so much light on this story that's out there. So, but do I feel any kind of satisfaction or gratification? Really, no. Really, no. I don't see this as any kind of a victory or anything. If anything, it's what do you call, like a letdown. I kind of feel let down by all this. So I'm not saying I'm some kind of genius, okay? I'm not like a mastermind. I was in the right place at the right time, and I heard this story. It was interesting to me. When I got a radio show, I said, this is an interesting thing I want to put on the air. Just like a lot of stuff I do that doesn't take traction. I'll give you another one, though. I did a show, and this is related, by the way, to the Epstein thing. And I tell you before, sometimes I'll do a show just to ask the guest one question. And I had a question about scores. And so I found a guy who owns Scores, Michael Blutrich, okay, who, by the way, was partners in the Cuomo law firm. And, you walked into the Cuomo law firm, you go to the right, it was the Cuomo law firm. You go to the left, it was the Scores headquarters. That's how intimately they were all involved together. Okay. Comes on the show. I start getting contacted by all these people saying, hey, Ed, man, this guy molested me. This guy, when I was a little boy, this guy raped me, man. This guy came to our rec center, and lure us out of there and offer us money and all kinds of stuff. So behind the scenes, we wound up with a lawsuit on that case. I don't always talk about it. Bring it up a couple of times. I'm going to shout it from the rooftop. But there's been outcome. There's been some good outcome from the stuff on this show. But do I feel all that satisfaction? I really don't. Now, another thing that happened this week was the death of Harry Reid. Okay? Now, I'm no fan of Harry Reid, let me tell you that. Harry Reid stole the election from Bernie Sanders. Harry Reid was part of that Nevada machine with some of the most richest people on the face of the earth, man, in Nevada. Vegas corruption. A little story so many people are not aware of. When I lived in Las Vegas, I really lived in Henderson, Nevada, but I lived in this little community called Seven Hills. And that's where Butch Harmon had his swing coach. Tiger Woods' swing coach was there. The guy that owned eBay lived in there. Smokey Robinson lives in there. And one of the people who lived in there was LaToya Jackson. And we used to go to the same dry cleaners. And I would see LaToya Jackson and this man she was with. They're both she's beautiful. She's a stunningly beautiful woman. And she would have these clothes on. Her clothes would be just like immaculate, brand new, expensive clothes, well-tailored. And they had a brown Bentley, okay? Bentley Rolls Royce. And the guy she's with wearing a suit. And they're picking up their dry cleaning like me. Okay? All right? They're just, really dressed to the nines. Different kind of people. So she was married previously to this guy named Jack Gordon, who basically was a pimp. Okay? He ran massage parlors in California. He owned a bunch of massage parlors. And Jack Gordon had this ability that anybody he would go into partnerships with, the partner would get killed. It would be a murder, and his partner would die, and he would walk away with entire ownership of the massage parlors. He wound up owning 3 of them. And then he did some time. He got a charge for prostitution, pandering, pimping. And he did that. And somehow he gets his mitts on. Through Joe Jackson, Michael Jackson's father, hired Jack Gordon, the pimp, to be his daughter's manager. How do you like that? I used to see Joe Jackson, too, down at one of the sports books. I think it was Harrah's, one of those kind of places. It wasn't a fancy one. It was a shitty one. Down in Vegas, too. Boy, and here's a whole story about him, too, man, where he stole this money from a Korean church. They invested some money with him, and he just ripped them off. Bunch of characters in that Jackson family. But Jack Gordon marries LaToya, and they came out. She did a press conference in Israel where she came out and said, hey, I believe all the allegations against my brother. Because we saw so many strange things. We saw checks paid to little boys. He would come home and bring soiled diapers after a night at Studio 54. This guy was up to some weird stuff. So she believed the little boys. Now, if you go to the Michael Jackson community, they'll say, well, no, Ed, that never happened because, it's all made up because Jack Gordon used her, and later on she admitted it was a lie. But Jack Gordon went to the prosecutor before he ever went to the press. It's a little-known portion to this story. It may not be in the press, I don't know, but that's something I know for a fact. Okay? Now, Jack Gordon, the story's about Harry Reid. Why are we talking about Michael Jackson, LaToya Jackson, and Jack Gordon? Because Jack Gordon got arrested for trying to bribe Harry Reid. Okay, he tried to offer Harry Reid a bribe, and as the story goes, Harry Reid, clean as a whistle, okay, brings in the FBI, and they did a sting operation. As soon as he got the money, Harry Reid starts punching on Jack Gordon. You tried to bribe me. Oh, my goodness. I would never take money. Okay? All right, that's how the official story goes. But anyway, so Jack Gordon, what happens later on, Jack Gordon, the jackpot there with that problem. But what happens was one day, Harry Reid's wife goes out to the car, and she happens to notice that there's dynamite attached to the car. And they blame Jack Gordon, that Jack Gordon tried to bomb Harry Reid. I didn't like that. How's that for a story? So that's my Harry Reid story. Comes in with Michael Jackson, Jack Gordon. Jack Gordon, by the way, also said that Michael Jackson was sacrificing some of those chimpanzees in the satanic ritual. Jack Gordon wrote a book about the Jacksons. You can't find it anywhere, okay? But there was a lot of stuff in that book. So much gets covered up, man. It's disgusting. That's what you got me for, right? Okay, looks like we're at the end of our show. If you like our show, be sure and like it and share it and retweet it and post it on Facebook and Reddit and Craigslist and wherever you can so more people can find the show. I'm working on some stuff, good stuff. An offer to do a documentary film. And also, too, I'm talking to a guy about a syndication package nationwide for the show. He's a legit guy. I know who he is. So we just got to find out. And he says he has sponsors, too, to pull it all off. So who knows? Maybe by this time next month, I'll have 10 times the headaches I have right now. Okay? All right, guys. I love you so much. Happy New Year, guys. Hey, listen, God bless you all. I got no kidding around. I got some of the most smartest people I've ever met in my life. The nicest, most sincere, legitimate people I've ever met in my life are either listeners to this show or contributors or helpers behind the scenes like Ed and Shane and all these guys who help out behind the scenes, and Marlon who helped with Patreon, and Brace and all these guys who helped out over the years, great guys like Sean Duffy, man, who helped with the website for so many years, Christoph, all real legit, sincere people. And some of the smartest listeners that are out there, see some of these other shows out there, and you got to be so gullible to follow what they're saying. But I just got some of the sharpest people on this show. And over the years, the guests I've had on here, I'm honored to know them and talk to them. Brilliant people. People involved in history, historic events, that things that I know about them in their life that they don't talk about in public, man. But it's big stuff, man. Big stuff. You know? Like historic stuff. You know? And these people are wishing my daughter a happy birthday on Facebook. You know? So it's been a nice ride here, guys, and I can't thank you enough. Good people, good friends, and great audience. Happy New Year to you all. Okay, and I wish you all a happy New Year this next year. Healthy, prosperous, that we all do great. And great things for the show. Good night. And now a word from our sponsors.
Before Epstein was the Franklin cover-up. Before that, the Finders. And long before that, the Cleveland street scandal. Pedogate Primer is a concise intro and overview of a growing child abuse epidemic worldwide. It features shocking instances of institutionalized and organizational pedophilia throughout history. Churches, cults, the world of arts and entertainment, the government, NGOs, charities, and major corporations are all complicit or culprits in many instances. Pedogate Primer delves into material that for many may seem like the stuff of conspiracy theories. For this reason, the book draws on academic resources, declassified documents, and other reliable sources, and steers clear of conjecture. Such shocking, true stories need no embellishment.
If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at KMDLaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to KMDLaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law. The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119.